Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The Sabbath today is from Rag Bairari. It's the second Sabbath of the fourth Nanak, Guru Ram Das. And the theme of the Sabbath is actually quite contemporary. It is about slandering and the slanderer, the nindak, which is something that we are quite familiar with. So let's sit with the Sabbath. Ek Oankar Satgur Prasad. The Rahau. Har jan Raam Naam gun gave, je koi nind kare har jan ki, apna gun na gavave. Rahau. This is the thought around which the Sabbath revolves. And a literal rendering in English would be Harjan, the one who belongs to the Har. Raam Naam gun gave. It sings to the praise of wisdom. In other words, the Harjan is one who lives in virtue. Je koi nind kare har jan ki, je koi, if someone nind kare, slanders that harjan, je ko nind kare har jan ki, apna gun na gavave. The harjan, does not lose its own virtue, remains unaffected personally. So this is the entire Sabbath, essentially. Gave, gavave. Two words have been placed next to each other. They sound almost identical. They're just one letter, one breath apart. And this is what is called in Punjabi karani vach, a causative verb. Gave is to sing, gavave is to cause to be lost, to squander. So, the harjan does not squander its virtue. So, the verb of devotion and the verb of forfeiting it is right next to each other. So, this is essentially saying that the slanderer does not make the devotee. And then there is the word jan. The Ankar tells you that we are talking about one specific devotee, the subject of the sentence. This is singular, nominative. So what is being said here is the slanderer is the critic. Guruji is telling us that the critic doesn't count. The critic doesn't count. There is a line from Theodore Roosevelt who said, "It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena." So this is essentially modern psychology trying to teach us shame resilience, which really is a footnote to this Rahau. So slandering will own you only if you have already outsourced your sense of worth to the slanderer, you see? Except that Guruji is saying it in very simple 12 syllables. Apna gun na gavave. And this matters for us particularly because we are visible as Sikhs with our dastars, with our kesh. And a lot of us may have had the experience of being misread in public. And that misreading can be annoying. Sometimes it's violent, unfortunately. The Sabad is not suggesting that these moments do not hurt. They do. What it is telling you is that your gun, your virtue, your character, your fundamental belonging to the wisdom of Naam is not stored in the eyes of the person who is misreading you. So therefore, nobody can withdraw it. That's the idea. Hang on to that Naam. And now the first stanza after the Rahau, the amplification. Jo kich kare so ape swami, hare ape kar kamave, hare ape hi mat deve swami, hare ape bol bulave. So, very simply said, whatever happens, it is the master doing it itself. The Har is performing the act. It is Har that bestows apehi mati deva. This is Naam. And it is the same Har that speaks and causes the slanderer to speak. Ape is stressed 4 times in this line to say that whatever is happening within the field of the Har. So the Guruji is saying, who really is the slanderer ultimately? Who's doing this to me? Am I supposed to fight them? Guruji says, that is the wrong frame through which to look at the slanderer. Because the Har is the one that bestows the intellect, the capacity to discern to every party in the conversation. And Har is the one that inspires the speech, even of the slanderer, of the nindak, bol bulave. So now, lest you think that Guruji is dodging the real question or letting the critic off the hook, or if he's saying it's nobody's responsibility, that is really not what he is saying. What he's saying is, all of this is happening in hukam. Hukam in its most expansive sense. It is the field in which our choices play out against one another. The slanderer still owns the slandering, but the Harjan is being asked to see the entire field, not just the move on the field. We are all instruments of that same hukam. So the Guru is telling us to see the field, everything in the field. Recognize the trigger. Where is it coming from? Don't identify with the wound. Widen your lens until you can see that the person attacking you is also in the grip of something, or in the grip of hukam. That does not excuse them. What it does is, when you look at it that way, it relocates you. You move from a possible knife fight to a much larger room. And as Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet the busybody, I shall meet the ungrateful, the arrogant. The Stoic prepares. Guruji is asking us to prepare in a similar manner. And then the conclusion. Harayape panch tat bisthara vich tat panch aap pave Jan Nanak Satgur Mele Ape Har Ape Chagad Chukave. Again, the Har itself is spreading out the five elements. And within those elements, he has placed the five faculties. And it is the Har that ultimately unites us with the Guru. It is the Har that will put an end to this quarrel. So the Sabad here is actually zooming out from your individual hurt to the entire cosmos. Panchatat, the five elements. Har ape panchatat bistara. So this is vocabulary that has come to us from the Indic traditions. Guruji is saying that the Har, the self-doer, is spread out in the elements and placed the senses there. So it is that same substance that is doing everything. So because the Guru is here closing the loop, he's starting with, is someone criticizing you? He moves on to say, look, the field of speech is really Har. And Har is also the body that receives the criticism. The five elements that built the critic, the slanderer, and the five elements that built the devotee, the same source. The senses that hear the insult and the mind that feels stung, placed by the same hand. Jana Nanak Satguru Mile Ape. Ape Chagar Chukave. So, he says Chukave, Hari settles it, brings a stop to it. Har is the one that causes the quarrel to end, not you. And how does it end? Satguru Mel Milave. Through the channel of the Satgur. It solves the problem by placing the Satgur in front of you, so that your dimension expands, your consciousness expands. You see things in proportion. You don't individualize or personalize everything. That's the message. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.